You're watching the ACC Network Extra. This is This Morning at about 10:30, not 2 weeks ago, but today, field covered with the ugly white stuff. And as you fast forward a couple of hours, field is clear, ready to go. Second game of this three-game series here at Patterson Stadium in Louisville, Kentucky, the NC State Wolfpack and the Louisville Cardinals. And hi everyone, and welcome to ACC Baseball on this Saturday afternoon. Jim Couch along with former Cardinal outfielder Jeff Gardner. Jeff, as we enter the middle game of this three-game series between these two ball clubs, from an NC State standpoint, their backs are to the wall if they're to keep their ACC series streak alive.
Well, that's right. They came into the weekend looking for their 8th consecutive conference series victory, and only 3 times in that stretch have they lost Friday night and then won the series after that.
Last game played here was last night, an 8-2 Louisville win. Let's take a look at some of those highlights.
Well, Adam Wolf continued with the great season that he's been having, just absolutely dominating the NC State lineup last night, which isn't an easy thing to do. Logan Wyatt in the third got the Cards on the board with a big-time grand slam to give them a 4-run lead. The Cards were able to hang on to the lead the rest of the game. Although NC State's Josh McClain tried his best to ignite this NC State lineup, it ended up to be to no avail.
Big victory for Louisville last night. They get it 8-2 with the victory for the Cardinals, meaning they have an opportunity to sweep this series if they can pick up the wins today and tomorrow. Cardinals have taken the field, and on the mound, another left-hander after a very good performance here last night by Adam Wolf. This is a younger lefty, Nick Bennett.
Well, Bennett has done a great job for the Cardinals in his tenure here at the university. There's your scouting report on him. 4-pitch mix. He's going to work very fast, which is great for a defender behind him. And he's just the model of consistency. He's a guy who, once you run him out on the mound, you know what you're going to get every single day. As we said earlier in the year, he came off a little bit of an injury and has just now been really getting back into the starting role. Last weekend was his longest start of the year, went 7 innings pitched, and he only gave up 4 hits, struck out 6. So I'm sure he's eager to get back out here against the Wolfpack.
He's ready to go. So is Steven Patera, the leadoff man for NC State. First pitch misses high, and we are underway on a snow-free Saturday afternoon here in Louisville. That was some sort of a shock this morning when we woke up. There was snow everywhere.
It was. Hey, you take a look outside your window and see snow all over the place, and then 2 hours later, it's gone.
Bennett on a comebacker will make the play and throw Patera out. That's the way this game gets started. Take a look at the Wolfpack starting lineup. Their batting order looks like this. Steven Patera, who just tapped back to the mound. Then Josh McClain and Will Wilson. Brett Kinnaman, Patrick Bailey, and Evan Edwards, the middle three. Brock Deathridge, and yes, Johnny Piedmont, who was a starting pitcher yesterday, at least right now in the 8th spot as the DH. And then JT Jarrett will be the third baseman, and he'll bat 9th. This is a little different look. They've kind of shaken up their lineup a little bit going into the middle game.
Yeah, they have. Last night, Kinnaman was in the 2-hole spot. Nothing really went the Wolfpack's way last night, so they shook it up a little bit. And you can see Piedmont down there in the 8-hole, but that's more of just a strategy to see, how the game's going at that point before NC State decides who they're going to run out there as the DH for tonight.
And a good mix of pitches right there by Nick Bennett. He sends McClain back to the dugout. First 2 men retired here in the top of the first.
There's a great pitch right there by Bennett. Shows off that off speed, that slider that he loves to throw, and it's so effective. I mean, he's got a big frame. He's able to get on top of that ball, really get a lot of depth to that breaking ball, and that's a tough pitch to hit.
Here's Will Wilson, the shortstop, with 2 men out. Yeah, the top of their lineup, talking about NC State, normally has McClain 1, Kinnaman 2, Wilson 3, and Edwards 4. But in this game, Patera, who's been out with an injury, just now really coming back, is in the 1 spot. McClain 2, Wilson still number 3, and Kinnaman in the 4 spot, with Edwards actually dropping down to number 6 here today. Really was a rare offensive night for NC State last night.
It really was. NC State coming into the series was hitting .310 as a club, and for this late in the season to be able to hit that well, that's a great thing. So the Cards were able to shut him down last night.
1, 2, 3 first turned in by the sophomore Nick Bennett on this Saturday afternoon.
Well, the Wolfpack's running out Brian Brown tonight. Something interesting about this kid right here, he's leading the country in ERA. As you can see, he's a senior, he's a savvy vet. And here's another thing the Cardinals are going to have to look out for, especially a team that likes to run. He's got a great pickoff move. I mean, this is a guy who has 4 pickoffs on the year, and that doesn't sound like a lot, but if you're a pitcher, if you can mix in 1 or 2 for a whole season, that's pretty good numbers. So to have 4 midway through the year, I mean, that's showing that you've got something special out there on the mound.
All right, let's take a look at the lineup that Brian Brown will face for the Louisville Cardinals. Tyler Fitzgerald in the leadoff spot last night, back in there today. Then Jake Snyder and Devin Mann. Logan Wyatt here, the grand slam. The big blow in the game yesterday for the Cardinals in the cleanup spot. Josh Stowers and Danny Oriente, who had 3 RBIs last night. Pat Romero catches a second straight game. Ethan Stringer and Justin Levy.
Yeah, we talked about yesterday, Coach Mack shook up his lineup just a little bit. And it proved to be very profitable for him.
Stowers has been the leadoff man most of the year, but you beat the 4th-ranked team in the country, NC State, last night, decisively 8-2. You're probably going to keep things for the most part the way they were.
Yeah, I wouldn't mix it around. I think he's got a solid setup and lineup in what he had last night. I think it flowed a lot better. I think you saw guys like Josh Stowers look a lot more comfortable around the middle of the lineup than he did when he was leading off.
All right, so we'll see what the story is then with Brian Brown. 4-0, as Jeff mentioned, a 0.41 ERA, best in the nation. Career-wise, he's 22-9. with a 2.72 ERA today, making his 53rd career start for NC State.
And this is one of those lefties that nobody wants to ever face. I mean, he's not very, doesn't throw very hard, but everything that he throws, there's his fastball right there. And looking out on the scoreboard here, that's maxing out about 85 miles an hour. But if you can see it, that ball's moving probably 8 to 10 inches to his arm side when he throws it. He's got a little bit of a funky delivery, and he's throwing from sort of a 3/4 to sidearm type arm angle, arm slot. That makes things pretty tricky as a hitter, especially as a lefty, but righties will still struggle against Brown.
Not a big guy, 6 foot, 185, out of Glenmore, Pennsylvania. And he's run the count full to the Cardinals leadoff man, Tyler Fitzgerald, the shortstop. In the air to left field, Kinnaman will have room. And the leadoff man for the Cardinals retired here in the bottom of the first. Take a look at the defensive setup for NC State. That's Evan Edwards, their first baseman. Steven Patera is at second base for the 2nd consecutive game. Will Wilson is the shortstop, and over third today is J.T. Jarrett. They had Cooper over there at first base last night. The catcher is Patrick Bailey, the freshman. Here's the left fielder, Jake Snyder.
It was a good leadoff at bat by Fitzgerald. That's what I've been wanting to see out of the Cardinals, honestly, is we talked about yesterday. I think the first 2 innings, the Cardinals saw 5 pitches in one and then 7 in the other. That's just not that's not how you want to approach a starting pitcher. You want to try to get in the bullpen as early as you can, and if you can mix in a couple 6-pitch at bats like Fitzgerald just did, you're going to be able to get in there pretty quickly.
And remember last night that really changed then, Jeff, in the third when Piedmont threw, what, 38 pitches?
Yeah, that was when Louisville did most of its damage. Of course, most of that damage all came with 1 swing from Logan Wyatt.
To the right side, and Edwards, he will take it himself. Snyder retired. Completing our look at the defense for NC State in the outfield. They line up like this. Brett Kinnaman is in left field. Center fielder is Josh McClain. And out in right field is Brock Dethridge. Two out, nobody on, bottom of the first. Here's the second baseman, Devin Mann. Mann last night was 1 for 4. Comes into this game at 281 with a couple of home runs. Has extended his on-base streak now to 13 straight games in which he has reached.
That one's close right there. It's a low pitch, but credit Mann for taking his time and being patient with Brown. That's what you've got to do with a guy like this. Guy like Brown, it's sort of what we would call a crafty lefty. He's gonna nibble around the zone. He's gonna throw a lot of stuff that's gonna have a lot of movement, a lot of sink to it. Might be throwing changeups that'll fall off the table. Same thing with sliders. And the key is to not bite at a lot of that off speed that really he's just throwing in there.
You talked, Jeff, about a little bit of a delay in his motion. Once he takes that first step back, it's almost like he resets himself again and then moves forward.
Yeah, he does. And from what I've seen, it looks like he holds a little bit longer in some situations as opposed to others. And it's all about just trying to throw off timing, and that's what you've got to do if you're a guy who doesn't have a lot of velocity.
So he walks Mann. That brings Logan Wyatt to the plate. This is what he did last night in the third.
Just supercharged the Cardinal offense as he's been doing consistently the past couple weeks. Just a big-time grand slam. Gets a hold of that ball, and he knew it. It's good to see from the sophomore.
His second home run of the year, only the third of his career, his first career grand slam. Giving the Cardinals at the time a 4-0 lead. They went on to win it by the final of 8-2. And now a 26-game on-base streak for Logan Wyatt. He went 3 for 4 with 4 RBIs last night, giving him now the team leadership in that department with 29.
There you see that pickoff move from Brown, and I'm not sure about that one. That one looked close. He didn't really gain a whole lot of ground towards first, and Coach Mack was questioning the umpire behind the plate about that one. I don't blame him. That looked like he sort of just picked his foot up and sat it right back down.
Well, he waits a long time to commit to the plate, doesn't he?
He really does, and he's trying to read that runner over on first base. And not to mention, as I talked about earlier, he's got 4 pickoffs on the year, so that tells you that there's something there. There's some kind of pickoff move, whether it's him as a lefty, it's what we call a hang move, where he waits up in the air a little bit longer, as he does right there, or maybe it's what we call a snap move, where a snap pick, where he would step off the back of the rubber quickly and make a quick throw over to first. It'll be interesting to see as the game goes just what that move is. There you have it right there, the snap pick. But after being in the Cardinal dugout for 4 years and playing under Coach Mack, I can assure you that he's let all of the base stealers know that right now they need to be at the end of the dugout trying to get a good look at Brown's pickoff move.
Right to Patera, the second baseman. They get the force out on Mann at second, and that puts an end to the bottom of the first. And now the Cardinals play it defensively behind the left-hander Nick Bennett over at first base. That's Logan Wyatt. Devin Mann is the second baseman. Tyler Fitzgerald is the shortstop, and to his right at third is Justin Levy. Behind the plate, the catcher Pat Romero. No score, top of the second. Wolfpack went down in order in the first against the left-hander Nick Bennett. Now they get Brett Kinnaman, the left fielder. Again, we mentioned Kinnaman has been in the 2 spot most of the year, in the cleanup spot here this afternoon.
Yeah, Kinnaman taking some big swings, and that was huge for Louisville to be able to keep him at bay, if you will, last night. Bennett just does a great job of working quick. But he works quick, but he doesn't hurry. You know, he's not out there rushing, you know, overthinking his pitches or anything like that. He just gets on the mound, knows what he wants to do, and then goes at it.
There's Nick Bennett, 6'4", 210, out of Cincinnati's Moeller High School. His high school won the state basketball championship this year for Ohio. 8-1 in his career, making his 16th career start. Again, out earlier this year with an injury, but he's making his 3rd straight start here, coming off that very strong outing against Florida State his last time out. Drops in a breaking ball there. Freezes Kinnaman, strikeout number 2.
That's a great pitch, and I think he went with his cutter right there. I know that's what he likes to do. Likes to throw that a lot, and it's similar to a slider, but not quite as much depth. Great
Outfield
pitch.
set up for Louisville. Jake Snyder is in left field. Josh Stowers, the center fielder. To his left, in right, is Ethan Stringer. 4 faced, 4 retired for Nick Bennett. Did have a 5-inning no-run victory against NC State 1 year ago, so 1-0 in his career against the Wolfpack. He gets the catcher Patrick Bailey, the freshman. Hitting an even 300 with 3 home runs. Tailing away from Stowers, but Josh will run that ball down. 2 out.
Great jump by Stowers. Great piece of hitting right there by Bailey, but Stowers was able to get a good read on it, and that's the key. You know, his first couple steps, he was having to sprint down that ball, but if you watched, he was able to coast right there at the end because he had a good jump, and that's really where plays are you make or break yourself in the outfield is those first 3 or 4 steps.
Bennett getting that first pitch strike in there now to Evan Edwards. Bennett's walked 6 in 17 innings this year, but last year he was very, very good in terms of innings pitched to walk ratio. 65 innings as a freshman and only 13 walks.
Yeah, he really is a special talent that the Cardinals have out there. As we talked about pregame, he's just so consistent. You know, he's every time you run him out there, you know what you're going to get from this guy. And Louisville's got to be very excited to have him out on the mound, back in the starting rotation, I should say.
He has shut down the first 5, dealing now with the junior college transfer, Evan Edwards, their first baseman. And he gets him there on an off-speed pitch. Strikeout number 3 for Nick Bennett. 6 faced, 6 retired thus far. Oh, I would say no.
Yeah.
Scoreless through an inning and a half here at Patterson Stadium in Louisville, Kentucky. Let's take a look at the updated ACC Atlantic standings after games of yesterday. Clemson now just a half game behind NC State. Clemson was postponed yesterday due to bad weather. Florida State, Louisville, Wake Forest all won. 8-5 now for the Seminoles. 6-7 Louisville, 6-7 Wake Forest. Then Notre Dame and Boston College. Bottom of the second, Josh Stowers, the center fielder for Louisville, leads things off. Stowers at 258 with a couple of home runs.
See right there, you see the effectiveness of a guy like Brown. He's able to blow that fastball by Stowers, that 86-mile-an-hour fastball, because he's got him off balance. He doesn't know whether he's going to get the changeup like he just did right there, as he did for the first pitch, or he's going to get the heater. And if you're hitting against a guy like this, you almost have to buy into one way or the other. You either say, I'm going to lay off anything off speed, or I'm going to sit just fastball, or I'm going to only try and hit the off speed.
Stowers on base 3 times in the game last night. He had a hit, he had a couple of walks. We're going to look at a 3-2 pitch here to start the bottom of the second.
You know, when you're facing a guy like Brown, also, what helps is if you really try to let the ball travel.
Towards center, that will fall in front of McLean for a hit. Second inning, the Cardinals have had a base runner. That's the first hit of the game, and the leadoff man is on. Here's the head coach of the Tar Heels, Elliot Avent, his 22nd year. We mentioned last night the winningest coach in NC State baseball history. Pardon me, the Wolfpack. I said the Tar Heels, my correction. 30th year as a baseball coach at the collegiate level, former New Mexico State coach. Again, now in his 22nd year running the Wolfpack.
You see the snap move by Brown right there, and this is where it'll get tricky. You got a base stealer like Josh Stowers out there. Brown's going to do everything he can to try to pick him off, and Stowers is going to have to be careful to stay safe out there.
Stowers has 13 stolen bases this year in 15 tries, one of 3 Cardinals in double figures in that area. Snyder with 14, Stowers and Fitzgerald each with 13. And this is an interesting matchup with the move that you've talked about with Brown against the Cardinals, who lead the ACC in stolen bases.
Yeah, it certainly helps to. This is a guy that it really works out well having him throw against a team like U of L, because he's going to be able to control the running game. There's nothing worse than being out on first base and being unsure of whether or not you can shuffle or not.
Diving stop at third by Jarrett. They go to second, get a force out. Safe at first base, close down there at second base, and credit J.T. Barrett with a heck of a dive and a stop at third to get the leading runner.
Yeah, that was a great play right there. You see this ball hit to Jarrett's left, full extension. He's able to get a glove on it. And what I love is how quickly he was able to get the ball to second base. Not quite in time to turn 2, but able to get the lead runner and keep the double play in order. Great job by Jarrett right there. That was a beautiful play.
Now the batter, the catcher, Pat Romero.
There's the move right there, and again, it just looks kind of tricky to me. He's got to make sure that he has to make movement. He has to make a move towards first base, go towards that direction. Can't just put that foot down.
I wanted to double check this to be sure, but this is the first start of the year for J.T. Jarrett at third base. He has been playing second base with the injury to Patara.
That play he made over there a second ago looks like he's been doing it all year round.
Pat Romero 0 for 3 in the game last night. Drew a walk, scored a run, was on base as far as the Logan White grand slam was concerned.
It's a good pitch right there. Romero looks a little off balanced in there, as a lot of these guys will. I remember when I was here, it seemed like South Florida, University of South Florida, always threw a soft toss and lefty. I can't remember his name, but geez, it was like we could never hit him. This was a guy whose fastball, I mean, it literally would top out around 80 miles an hour sometimes, which is obviously very slow, but it was extremely effective.
Chased that pitch and did not get it. That's a strikeout of Romero and the first of the game for Brian Brown.
It's a beautiful pitch by Brown. That changeup starts off on the right, excuse me, the outside corner of the plate and just fades right off of it and gets Romero to chase. As you can see right here, it's a difficult pitch to hit.
So with 2 out, here's Ethan Stringer. Not in the lineup last night, in there today playing right field. Hitting .254 with 2 home runs. He's driven in 10. And the left-hander Drew Campbell out there last night against the right-hander Piedmont. The right-handed swinging Stringer in there today against the left-hander Brown.
Go Ethan.
Stringer, a sophomore out of Covington, Kentucky, Beechwood High School up near Cincinnati. How about the agility there by home plate umpire Douglas Vines? Good movement. He got to that ball. His counterparts today, Brian Miller, the umpire at first. Mark Humphreys is out at second, and David Savage is over at third. Started to go, did not. Pitch was low. Runner takes off. Throw down to second is in time. Patera takes the throw from the catcher Bailey, puts on the tag, and the inning is over. Scoreless 2 here at Patterson Stadium in Louisville. 1 hit in the game, that by the Cardinals' Josh Stowers. Back to the mound goes Nick Bennett of the Cardinals. And we'll take a look at the head coach of the Cardinals, Dan McDonnell. Like his counterpart, the winningest baseball coach in his school's history, his 12th year. Looking to win his 4th consecutive ACC Atlantic Division title. 3 years in the league, 3 years as the division champ. They have their work cut out for them this year. NC State 9-4, Louisville 6-7 entering today.
Yeah, the Cardinals have had a little bit of a rough patch with this conference play here, sort of midway through the year, but they look like a different club last night, and if they can keep that momentum up, keep swinging it like they did yesterday, and keep that going throughout the rest of the way, they'll be in good shape come tournament time.
We made mention of the fact yesterday, in fact we showed a graphic on it, about all the ranked teams that the Cardinals have played this year and what they have left. They've been so busy with ranked teams. North Carolina, Texas Tech, Clemson, Florida State, now this North Carolina State team, and the only ranked teams they have left on their schedule are non-conference games.
There you go.
Deathridge strikes out. That is 4 of them now by Nick Bennett. He just flat has these guys off balance.
He really does, and it's all part of that, the way he works. He keeps the momentum going in his favor. You know, he doesn't get out there and mess around on the mound. He goes right at these guys, and he's got quality pitches. And when you can mix both of those things together, you can be very effective and very deadly out there on the mound.
And now Terrell Tatum will pinch hit for the pitcher spot, in the DH spot. Johnny Piedmont was in that spot, yesterday's starting pitcher. There's a bunt in the air and a dive by Bennett, and he caught the ball.
That's a great job by Bennett, hopping off the mound quick as soon as he sees that ball go up, and he's able to make the grab. I didn't think he was going to have to roll the way that he did, but as you can see right there, he comes charging it, gets the glove on it right before it hits the ground. Great job by Bennett, helping his own cause.
So the pinch hitter Tatum sees 1 pitch, bunts his way out, and now it's J.T. Jarrett batting 9th, playing 3rd base. Can you offer an explanation as to why Piedmont would be in the lineup and they simply pinch hit for him when his time comes up, knowing that they're going to do that? What's the point of it?
Yeah, I think it's just.
We'll talk about it when we come back.
Yeah, that sounds good. Sounds good.
Scoreless game, bottom of the 3rd, middle game of this 3-game series, NC State and Louisville. Jeff, we were talking about Johnny Piedmont in the DH spot for NC State, a pitcher who started the first game of the series last night an explanation as to why he may be in there in the lineup as the DH today, at least when the lineup card is produced.
Yeah, it's a tactic that you'll see a handful of coaches run out there every once in a while, and all that is really just trying to get a feel for the game, get a read on how Bennett's throwing, what situation it is, and coach probably told 2 or 3 hitters in the dugout to be ready to go into that DH spot depending on certain situations. So that's really all that he's doing right there, is just trying to get a feel for how things are going, or even, you know, you don't want to, maybe he doesn't want to run a righty out there and then all of a sudden, you know, Bennett only lasts an inning, which isn't in his nature, but say that would have happened, maybe they would have wanted to put a lefty out there.
Instead, they put the left-hander Tatum in the lineup.
Ethan.
Piedmont, who started yesterday, was the losing pitcher, does not have a career at bat, so you figured something was going to happen there.
Right, and what that does, it just allows him to, like I said, get a read on the game and decide who he wants to run out there before having to burn a hitter.
Meanwhile, for the Cardinals, Stringer, who was at the plate when Oriente was cut down at second base, is called out here on strikes. 2 strikeouts in a row for Brown, leadoff man gone.
Yeah, Brown does a great job. I mean, he just fools him right here. Goes with that heater, and that ball looks like it's going to hit Stringer. He was trying his best to lean in there, but right as soon as it maybe was coming close to him, that ball just sunk right back over the plate. That's what's makes Brown so effective. He's a guy who, you know, every pitch that he throws is going to have some sort of movement on it.
Levy bunts that ball foul. Hits have certainly been at a premium against this left-hander Brown. He's given up just 28 hits this year going into this game in 43 2/3 innings. Opponents hitting just 187 against him. Offering late at that one, Levy didn't get it, and he finds himself in the hole.
Yeah, there's that changeup from Brown that makes it very difficult to hit. He also reminds me a little bit of a guy who I do remember his name. My University of Miami had a guy by the name of Radzewski. It's hard to forget that name, but lefty that they had he threw in game 2 of the 2013 regional we played here. And then went on to play in the Astros organization. But that was a guy who really didn't have a hard fastball, topped out maybe around 88 miles an hour. But, geez, his slider was unbelievable, and we could not hit him all game long. And it took really an HBP by, I believe, Coco Johnson that night to really kind of ignite the offense. We were able to then put a couple things together, and it ended up being a big inning that, honestly, had we not gotten Radzewski off the mound and won that ball game, might not end up in Omaha that year.
So much emphasis placed these days on velocity. It's really a pleasure to see a guy like Brown go out there, like Bennett go out there, whose main emphasis is not to try to overpower the hitters, but to finesse them.
Yeah, it's really it's cool to see. You know, it reminds you of, especially from the left side, it reminds you of a Jamie Moyer. You know, a guy who played, I think he's the only guy to play in 3 decades. Wasn't that sort of his claim to fame? I mean, he played till he played like 50.
His late 40s.
Yeah, well, yeah. There you have Brown's ERA. I mean, it's amazing to see that many other guys up there as well with him, but, you know, holding his own right there at the top spot. Not even a full run for an ERA.
5 pitchers right there with ERAs of under 1. Brown is at the top of the list.
You know, I had the opportunity my last season with the Nationals, in the Nationals organization. I was actually in extended spring training and got the opportunity to speak with a former Red, well, I guess current Red still too, Bronson Arroyo. And, you know, there was a time in his career where he threw pretty well, but then towards the end where he was, he decided he had to be more crafty.
Scoreless game, 4th inning. We're talking about the opponents that Louisville has played that are ranked, what they have left, in terms of ranked opponents, and those are all non-conference games. They have the Wildcats out of the SEC, Vanderbilt, same thing, and then Indiana out of the Big Ten. 3 games, all non-conference. So in terms of ACC play, after this weekend, Louisville finished with the ranked opponents.
Yeah, and it'll be an opportunity for Louisville to make up some ground. You know, they hit this stretch where the past 3 weeks, geez, what have they played? Of course, they led off ACC play with a conference win against North Carolina. But then after that, it was Wake Forest, Clemson, and Florida State. All those quality ball clubs. Not to say that who they're facing towards the end of the year isn't, but it'll be a little bit of a break to not look up and see, you know, a top 10 number next to the name of your opponent.
Now, this is the 3rd consecutive conference opponent that has been ranked that Louisville has played. Clemson first, then Florida State, now the Wolfpack of NC State. They'll be at Virginia Tech next weekend, then home to Virginia. Bobbled around out there in right field by Stringer. That's going to end up as McLean sliding headlong into second, and that's the first Wolfpack base runner of this game.
Yeah, great swing by McLean right here. Goes the other way, stays on that ball. And that right there is where you run into a little bit of trouble, as Stringer did right there. With this turf, sometimes if that ball hits just right, it's going to take a pretty nasty hop. Not so much where it's going to kick off to the side, but it's going to end up bouncing pretty high, as that one did. Stringer just tried to play that one a little bit too aggressively. Or he was a little too in between on that one. He should have either played it back or been more aggressive and tried to make a diving catch.
That's ruled a single for McLean, an error on the right fielder Stringer, and the Wolfpack a runner at second base with 1 man out. Where it took them until the 8th inning, actually the 7th inning last night, until they had a runner reach as far as second base.
Which also came from a ruled error out in right field.
Exactly right.
Nick, look good.
Will Wilson grounded out his first time.
Go, Nick.
Starts this game at .312 with 7 home runs. In the series, he's 0 for 5.
There you go.
Great use of the changeup right there by Bennett. Knows that Wilson's trying to ambush a fastball. He's going to get him off balance and throw in that changeup, get him to swing right through. Great job.
Fastball, and it's taken by Will Wilson. That's strikeout number 5 for Bennett.
That's great to see that Bennett didn't let that getting a runner on second base really affect him. Stayed with himself. And just a great pitch located right down on his knees.
He got the benefit of the doubt with that one on the lower end of the zone.
Yeah, he did.
Might be taking some heat over there from Elliot Avent, the head coach of the Wolfpack.
Well, I'm not sure if he was the one saying anything, or maybe he was trying to calm his players down. The umpire wasn't happy with what was coming out of the dugout. I think he was taking a little stroll to maybe cool off or let his guys know to settle down and maybe keep their words to themselves.
So here's Brett Kinnaman. 1 out single by McLean. The ball bobbled in right by Stringer, allows the Wolfpack center fielder to advance to second, then the strikeout. And now Kinnaman finds himself in the hole, no balls, 2 strikes.
A great slider right there by Bennett.
Kinnaman, the ACC leader in home runs with 12, third in RBIs at 36. Nothing yet in terms of damage by him in this series. Runner going, and the pitch is inside on a breaking ball. That allows McLean to steal third base.
Yeah, McLean had a great jump right there. It makes me wonder if he was able to see inside Bennett's glove. You know, maybe he saw that he was going to go with a slider right there and decided he was going to take off early, but either way, you got a great jump right there, and that's not something you generally want to do with 2 outs, is try to take third. But
hit hard towards center. That will fall for a hit. And the Tar Heels, pardon me, the Wolfpack have taken a 1-0 lead here in the top of the 4th as Kinnaman drives in his 37th of the season.
a great swing by Kinnaman, and that's a guy you want to have up with 2 outs and a runner in scoring position. A guy who's been leading the offense all season long. You can see right here, it doesn't hit the long ball, but he puts a nice swing on a line, on a fastball, and hits a line drive right up the middle. Stowers isn't able to come in and make the grab. That puts NC State on the board.
So the error on the stolen base pay off for the Wolfpack. They jump in front 1-0. Here's the catcher, Patrick Bailey. Hit the ball hard his first time. Nice running grab out in right center by Stowers.
Really, you see a little bit of a difference in pickoff moves. Bennett right there is a little bit more herky-jerky. He's not quite as able to control that move as Brown is. If you're a lefty, that's something that it's huge. A pickoff move to first base. You're really going to help yourself when it comes to controlling the running game.
Bailey 0 for 2 last night, 0 for 1 so far today. The freshman hitting .300 at the start of the day. Runner on the move. Throw into center field. Back up there by the shortstop Fitzgerald. So a steal for Kinnaman is his 4th. And this Wolfpack team, which came in at 37 stolen bases, 4th in the league, have stolen 2 in this inning.
Go, Nick. In the box now.
He gets a great jump right there, going off what we'd call the first move, knowing that Bennett's probably not going to try and use a hang move to pick him off right there.
Taking advantage also, it seems like, Jeff, of the fact that Bennett is not an overpowering fastball pitcher. Easier to run on a guy who has a variety of off-speed stuff like he does.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, knowing that you're the pitcher you're running off of, if he's topping out velocity-wise up in the lower 90s, you know, around 91 or at the top kind of 92, it gives you some more time as a runner to make it.
Runner took off there for third. He got a running start. And it's going to have to do a little something different here to freeze those runners.
Yeah, he got a great jump right there. And I think maybe if Bennett adds another look back there before he pitches, maybe that changes up his decision to run right there. But that was textbook right there. I mean, Kinnaman did exactly what you want to do as a runner at second base, trying to steal. Again, not something you necessarily want to do with 2 outs. There you have Bennett showing that, hey, I can pick off. I know you're over there, so just stay close.
Don't think I've forgotten about it.
That's right. That's right.
A run in here in the top of the 4th. NC State has taken a 1-0 advantage. Runner going to third again, and another foul ball by Bailey. NC State picked up 3 hits total in the game last night. One of those, the home run by Josh McLean. And it was McLean's hit here in the top of the 4th today that got this 4th inning going for the Wolfpack. In the air to left, Snyder playable with his hand up to block the sun, makes the catch. Bailey retired, and the Wolfpack settle for 1, but have taken the lead in the middle of the 4th. We expected a pitching matchup coming into this Saturday afternoon game here in Louisville, Kentucky, and that's exactly what we have gotten thus far. Nick Bennett of Louisville, 5 strikeouts and a run against him. Brian Brown, the nation's leader in ERA at 0.41, has allowed but 1 hit, 2 base runners, and he has a 1-0 advantage as he takes the mound here in the bottom of the 4th.
These pitchers have not disappointed, that's for sure. Brown showing just why he has the top ERA in the country. Just shutting down this Cardinal lineup thus far.
He really has, Jeff, made quite a transformation from a year ago where he had a nice ERA of 3.76, but obviously nothing like his 0.41 at the start of this game. So you have to wonder what has happened between a year ago and now to make him so effective.
You really do. I don't know what that may have been. If maybe he was trying to pitch too much to, you know, maybe being a fastball pitcher before, whereas maybe now he's settled more into honing in on his off-speed pitches, which he's showed today has been so effective. That's the only thing that I can really think of. You know, I played with a guy by the name of Cody Iggy who went through a similar transition between our sophomore and junior year. You know, he was a guy who was a left-handed specialist. He came out of the bullpen, but really wasn't overpowering at all. Mid to upper 80s fastball. But then whenever we came back from the summer of 2013, or excuse me, 2012, he had sort of revamped himself as a pitcher. All of a sudden he was throwing from about 3 different arm slots and throwing 3 or 4 different pitches, doing a great job at it. He ended up being the first guy from our class to crack the big leagues.
Well, just from a numbers standpoint, it looks like Brown is much more aggressive attacking the hitters. Last year, he walked 32 in 67 innings, basically 1 every 2 innings. This year, his innings to walk much, much better.
Yeah, exactly, and I'm not sure what that is. I don't know if maybe he's controlling his off speed a little bit better, getting guys to swing and miss more as the Cardinals have so far in this game. They've chased a lot of pitches that aren't necessarily bad pitches. They're off speed, you know, change ups and even his heater that's sinking as much as it is. You know, he's just doing a great job of keeping guys off balance.
What they are, tantalizing pitches, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. There you have the breakdown right there. He's kind of 50-50 on balls and strikes.
Freezes Snyder there, gets the strikeout, number 4 for the left-hander. Leadoff man gone here in the bottom of the 4th. Devin Mann bats with 1 out. Walker's first time. I mean, Mann now has extended his on-base streak to 14 straight games. Cardinals actually have 4 players with on-base streaks in double figures. Starting today, Wyatt at 26, Mann at 13, Stowers at 12, Snyder at 11. Mann has extended his to 14.
Come on, David.
Stowers has extended his to 13. Snyder and Wyatt have yet to extend theirs.
There you have a great pitch by Brown. Keeps that ball low in the zone. He's able to get that first strike, not without throwing 2 balls before.
Jammed him, and a good piece of hitting there, and a base hit in the left by Mann, and he's on with 1 out.
Great job by Mann right there. That ball was in pretty hard on his hands. He's able to kind of throw his hands inside that ball and turn on it and get it out to left field. As I said before, you know, when you've got a guy like Brown, you're honestly trying to take whatever you can get. It can get really tricky trying to hit against a guy like this.
Here's now Logan Wyatt with a tying run aboard and 1 out. Reached on a fielder's choice his first time, and look at these numbers and rankings.
Yeah, look at that. His ACC batting average at .435. I mean, that's just unheard of to do that in a league like this. And second in the ACC. I mean, he's just doing a great job. He's really turned it on once the Cardinals got into conference play. He's tied for second in hits, second in doubles, and third for RBIs. I mean, if he can keep this up, he'll help lead the Cardinals to a lot of victories down the road, and hopefully a postseason run.
Number 1 in the ACC and on-base percentage at .536.
Yeah, he's no stranger to the bases, that's for sure.
3 hits, including the grand slam last night.
There's that slider from Brown that could get a little difficult to sit on, as you saw right there from White. He just hooked that ball over towards the first base dugout.
I mean, they shift him big time on the infield and the outfield. Look at that, 3 infielders on the right side with the only defender on the left side cheating way up the middle. There's 70 feet between that defender on the third base side and the bag.
Yeah, they love to shift Wyatt. But I've mentioned, a lot of times before, you see Wyatt drive the ball up the middle and to opposite field just about as much as he does pull it. So obviously with his size and where he stands on the plate, they're looking for this guy to pull the ball, but he can drive it to opposite field as well.
His 3 hits last night, 1 was to right, 1 was to right center, 1 was to center. There's that hole we're talking about, from the defender on the left side all the way to the bag, maybe more than 70 feet.
And if you notice, the left fielder isn't playing quite as much up the middle to the pull side as everybody else in the outfield is.
Actually, the outfielders are very shallow.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's actually, I remember when I was with the Nationals, there was some sort of stat that they had gone over. I mean, there's stats for everything these days, but something about exactly how often a lefty hits the ball to the opposite field and where they hit it. They very rarely do lefties drive it into the gap, but I think it's something like 70% of the time they're going to hit it either from the shortstop over towards the foul line.
That play actually was made by Will Wilson, the shortstop, on the right side. It'll go down as a 6-3 putout. Runner moving to second base, man, and Stowers has the opportunity. The runner in scoring position and 2 out to tie this game.
Well, I like having Stowers up in this situation. He just looks more comfortable. He hits way better with runners on base. And as we mentioned before, just when he was in the leadoff spot, didn't look like he was very comfortable out there. And last night really got into some baseballs and put some great swings on the ball. Interested to see how he does right here in this situation.
Last night he lined out to center, hit the ball well. Later had a sharp single into left field in his 2 at-bats plus his 2 walks. So he's on base 3 times.
And Brown's going to stay away from Stowers right here. He's going to try to keep everything off the plate. Might even mix in another changeup right here. I wouldn't be surprised if he went with a 2-0 changeup, just expecting Stowers to sit on a fastball. Maybe gets him to swing through a changeup.
Not that you want to work around Stowers, because Danny Oriente is on deck. He drove in 3 in last night's game.
Yeah, there you have the changeup right there, and not really surprising. Wants to keep Stowers off balance, and as I mentioned, he's going to try and stay away from him, maybe try to get him out over his front foot, keep the ball low. He just wants to get a ground ball somewhere in the infield right here. Stowers, as I said, he's a good guy to have up right here. He's hitting .389 with runners on base. I don't blame, you know, I can see why that is. I'm a guy who's the same way. I feel a lot more comfortable if there's somebody on base and I've got a job to do, as opposed to hitting with nobody out there.
Takes it the other way, and that ball will drop harmlessly foul. Playing in cold weather like it is, we showed at the top of the broadcast, the field was covered with snow. Clear now. No wind is blowing, and that's helpful, but it is cold out there. What's it like from a hitter standpoint and the feel of that bat, particularly when you get jammed on a day like today?
Well, you know, what's interesting is when they change the bats, and especially those two-piece bats like Stowers is swinging, they don't really affect your hands quite as much as they used to. I mean, there was a time when swinging a metal bat when it was this cold was absolutely miserable. Not quite as bad as trying to swing a wooden bat when it's this cold. I think that's probably the worst jam job I've ever had. But, you know, it's obviously very difficult to keep your muscles loose and stay warm when you're playing in an environment like this.
Saw the graphic. The temperature is up to 40 degrees, 36 at game time. They're going to rule that ball hit the foot of Stowers. That's earlier today. I showed you the field covered with snow at 10:30. Here's what the seats look like around that time.
It was a little chilly, but it's pretty crazy how once that sun came out from the clouds, how quickly that snow melted away.
Really a good idea to push the start back an hour to 2 o'clock.
Yeah, it really was.
Runners on the move. Throw to third is wide. Double steal by the Cardinals, and they're at second and third with 2 out.
Be your hitter, Danny. Come on now.
As I mentioned before, you know, with 2 outs, you're not necessarily always trying to steal third, but Mann's able to get a great jump right here, and knowing that he's got another base stealer behind him. Now he's got 2. Now as the Cardinals have 2 runners in scoring position, and a good hitter like Danny Oriente up, try and give him the lead right here.
Man, the front end of that double steal gets number 4. Stowers on the backside, number 14. Cardinals have 54 stolen bases on the year. That's tops in the ACC. Now falling behind Oriente 2-0. Time is called. And out of the dugout comes the pitching coach, Scott Foxhall of NC State. Talk things over with his battery.
Well, I think Foxhall right here is probably going to let him know, hey, let's be careful with Oriente. You know, he had our number last night, had a couple RBIs, put some good swings on the ball. We've got Pat Romero behind him, who's not hitting quite as well. Let's be careful. We've got a base open. Just pitch around Oriente. Don't give him anything to drive right here.
Both of his hits, talking about Oriente, came against the reliever, the right-hander, Matthew Gochi. 2-run single in the 6th inning, and the first batter that Gochi faced. And then an 8th inning base hit that gave him 3 RBIs on the night.
If I'm Oriente, you've got to realize the situation. And I don't think Brown meant to leave that pitch right down the middle like he did there, but you're Oriente, you've got to think, okay, look, there's a base open, there's a good potential, they're probably trying to pitch around me. I'm going to lock in on a fastball away. Personally, that's what I'm looking for right here. A heater away that I'm going to sit on, let it get deep, and just try to barrel. You see right there, he looked just a little in between on that swing. And now's not really the time to be in between. You've got to buy into one pitch or the other and look to get the barrel on it.
So it goes very quickly from advantage hitter to advantage pitcher.
Be a hitter, Danny.